Welcome to the Fill Your Cups podcast. We're your hosts, Morgan
and Bailey.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the show. We're so happy to have you here.
Woo!
Today's episode is about the novelty effect, which we'll get more into later. But if you ever feel like time is just moving super fast, you can't slow down, all the days are bleeding together, this is something that you can utilize in your everyday life to help make it feel like life is less of just like a blur and like you're actually in every moment that you are experiencing.
Yes.
So that's what we'll be talking about today. Before we get into that, what is filling your cup?
I've just got some water today. Nothing even in it. Just some plain old water.
Wait,
I know.
just plain for you?
I mean,
That's
it's got
shocking.
ice, but yeah, no energy packet.
Wow.
No flavor packet. No lemons. Just
my
water
gosh.
today.
That's crazy.
I know. I'm feeling wild.
I have the same thing. Well, no ice because I don't like cold water. But I have water as well, so I guess we're just real boring.
I think we are. I feel like it's probably because it's Super Bowl Sunday. And we both know we'll have like different things to drink throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's get our water now.
Yeah, 100%. Any day that I drink alcohol, I try to have like 80 to 100 ounces of water before I even have a sip of alcohol.
Oh my gosh. That's just so smart. It's so smart.
It does help a lot, like especially I think the next day with avoiding the headache and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It probably helps with the bloat. I really like that. Well, before we get into all of that, I know you had a shout out.
Yes,
What is it?
I am so excited about this one because we recently had a love languages episode and my good friend Brittany and coworker at the Community Blood Center messaged me, and I didn't tell you this, but this was prompted because we have like a group message with my coworkers and we experienced like a cybersecurity incident and everybody, and like on the day that we didn't have access to email, we basically could not do our jobs really.
Yeah.
And I was texting them and I was like, here are some ideas for things you could do instead. And one of the things I put was catch up on the Fill Your Cups podcast.
Oh my god.
And I sent them that week's episode, which was love languages.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. I love that about you.
Thanks. Yeah. I was just joking. I put other actual like work things too. I was like, you could put out yard signs, you could deliver packets, you could go donate, whatever.
Yeah.
But I did put that, and Brittany listened and texted me and said, Morgan, I was just listening to your podcast Love Languages episode on my way to UCM. We have blood drives there.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me about your podcast. 2 things. 1, it made me text my words of affirmation husband and say I'm grateful for you and I love the life we have together. 2, I bought you a little enamel pin months ago because I saw it at a festival and I thought of you. I'm a gifts person, but thought you might think a random gift was weird to have, or was weird, so I still have it, LOL. I had no idea you were a gift person too. I'm going to give it to you the next time I see you.
I love that so much because that is what we want to happen after our episodes.
Yeah.
We want people to be texting their loved ones and like putting things into practice. And it's so cool that she did that.
Yeah.
And then so funny that she had a gift for you and didn't know you were a gifts person.
I know.
And then like that all works out perfectly.
I thought it was so cute. It made me so happy. And it totally filled my cup getting that message. The worst part of it was she texted me about a work thing a few days later and I immediately responded. And then she was like, hey, sorry, I didn't know if you were like able to access your phone because I sent you a message before and I didn't see, and you didn't respond. And I looked back and that sweet message that she sent me, I somehow opened it and never replied. And that's so unlike me.
No, yeah, that's
like
very unlike you.
I never open a message without being
That's
able to
probably
respond.
why she was okay with being like, I don't think you saw it.
Yeah. And I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. So
shout out.
Yeah, huge shout out to Brittany. And I'm so glad she drew my attention back to it because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nice.
No, I love that so much. And that's so exciting and such a cool shout out.
Yeah.
And I love that it's a coworker too.
I know.
Makes it very fun.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, for our episode today, like Morgan said, we are talking about the novelty effect. Now, when this idea was first brought to me, I was like, I don't really think I totally understand that. And I think it's because I did not understand what novelty meant. So if you're listening and you're already kind of like, what the F is that? Here's what novelty means. It just means the quality of being new, original, or unusual.
Yeah.
So kind of keep that in mind with that effect.
Yeah. When we say novelty effect, it's like first time effect or new effect or that sort of thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought of this episode because I saw a little like Facebook reel and someone, I don't know even who it was, but it stuck with me. And she was saying something like, oh, does your life feel like every day is the same and every day bleeds together? Because naturally, like, you know how there are people say formative memories when you're like a child?
Yes.
Naturally, our brains remember the first time we did something
Mm.
way more than the 80th time we did something, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have that newness in your life, it makes it so that the days feel longer and the moments feel longer and you just remember more about your experiences because it was new.
Yeah.
And naturally, as we get older, you have fewer new experiences because you've done more things over the
and you
course
kind
of
of
your
get in the
lifetime.
habit of doing the same thing every day.
Yes. So after seeing that Facebook reel, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of want to look into this and figure out how to utilize it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so when I read that Facebook reel, it said something like the novelty effect is the phenomenon of encountering new, unusual, or original experiences that slow down our subjective perception of time. So exactly what you said, but using the novelty effect is a tool that we can use to slow down how fast we feel time is going.
Yes.
And I really do feel like it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you do something different, it stays in your memory. You know how people talk about when you commute to work, how you just kind of go on autopilot and sometimes, like sometimes you get home and you don't even remember.
Yes, you don't even remember the drive.
Yeah. And so it's kind of incorporating new things or just small, nuanced, new ways to have that happen less.
Gotcha. I like it.
Yeah. And another thing that I thought was interesting from that article was it talked about how when we age, like when we get older, this could also be part of why we have the cognitive decline that we do.
Oh.
Because we're experiencing fewer and fewer new things. And so our brain is not having to encode as many things.
Oh.
So
yes.
Yeah. So every time you experience a new thing, your brain has to figure out a way to code it, right? So it's like working whatever neuroreceptors that requires, I don't know. And so as you get older, it's doing less and less of that encoding for new experiences. And that's part of why neuroscientists think that we may have some of the decline that we have.
That cognitive decline.
So this could also be very beneficial in the long term.
Yeah.
More so than just like, oh, I just want to appreciate my life how it is now. It also could be beneficial in the long term of helping you cognitively.
Yes, I really like that. I like the idea of taking the time to slow things down and taking the time to make things new again and like making sure that you're like you said earlier, we love habits and routines, but it is still good to incorporate new things into your life and make sure things are staying fun and juicy and exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's a balance, right? Because we want to have our habits and routines and we want to feel comfortable in our life.
Yes.
And for some people, everybody grew up differently. So for some people who may have grown up in like a really chaotic, unpredictable environment, they may now as an adult really seek the comfort of the known and the predictable and that sort of thing. So it's not to say that you should override those natural, fight or flight kind of I need safety things or anything like that. But it's more like finding the balance of what is a comfortable state for you to be in and then also being able to incorporate novelty and help it just honestly make you remember life more.
Yeah, I really like that. While you're talking about that, it's reminding me, so obviously we're going to kind of get into ideas of how you can incorporate those, but it's reminding me of like, I feel like the novelty effect is remembering where you were like the first time you heard an album. Yeah. And being like, oh my gosh, like when I think of Tortured Poets Department, every time I listen to it, I remember it being nice outside. And I remember like listening to it on my way to work when it's all green outside. And that is always what I think of when I listen to that. Or when I hear like Reputation, I always think Mason and I just started dating at that time. And so so I think like that's kind of what it means to me is like remembering those first experiences, but how you can do that in the everyday.
Yes.
And like how you can do that with the mundane things.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, I think that that's a really good point. As you were talking about kind of the seasons and stuff like that too, I was starting to think like, well, you tell me, would you say that you feel like the summers felt like way longer when you were a kid or shorter than now?
Way longer. I feel like way longer because you have a break during the summer. But now I'm like, I don't even know what month it is.
Yeah.
like when is summer technically over? Like when do kids go back to school? Like,
yeah. I feel like the seasons, they just are so short. It's like how everybody says that time just passes you by, you know? And I feel like, again, this is part of why, because when you were a kid, you were doing more things for the first time and like, experiencing things for the first time, forming a lot of your beliefs about the world and stuff like that. And now as an adult, you already have a lot of those beliefs formed. And you already have, so incorporating things like listening to a new album or something like that can help make those seasons feel like they stretched further.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Completely agree.
Yeah. So we could just dive right into some of the ways you can incorporate the novelty effect.
Yes.
So one of the first ways is target your routines that already feel kind of mundane or whatever and incorporate novelty into those. So we already talked a little bit about the commute, but I feel like a lot of people say, oh, well, take the scenic route or something like that. And I do appreciate the appeal of that. And maybe you can do that. But I also feel like we're all in such a hurry.
Yeah. I feel like that's more of a way to like slow down your days.
Yeah.
And like take the time versus make it novel.
Yeah. Versus making it feel longer because it's new. But on your commute, you could try a new playlist or you could call a friend that you haven't talked to in a while. Like just something that's out of the ordinary for you could help you remember that. And like you were saying with Tortured Poets Department, like I definitely remember times that I remember like the first time that I was listening to that in the car on the way out to do whatever for blood and stuff.
It makes it exciting. Yeah, this could also be a good time to try out like a new album, like I was saying. Or I know that Spotify, I'm sure Apple Music does it as well or wherever, but like New Music Fridays is a thing on Spotify where we'll put out any of the new artists that they might think you like. Like that could be a fun thing to do.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden you've discovered an artist that you didn't know you'd like, and then boom, you made a novel.
Yeah, for sure. I will say I kind of I think that this is also why the novelty effect is so hard and why we become so stuck sometimes, because we're so like, there's some kind of statistic that's like most people listen to the same, like the music that you listened to in high school is the music that you listen to kind of forever.
Yes, my music taste has not evolved.
Yeah, I'm like, I only listen to Taylor Swift and One Direction.
Same.
And occasionally I'll add like Ed Sheeran or Niall Horan or like a random.
Mine's now like, I'll add some Nickelback.
Yeah, exactly. But that was like nostalgic, you know? And so I feel like that's why the novelty effect can be hard. But it was this past like winter-ish, fall going into winter, I found in one of our books that we read for book club. Actually, it was the second one. It wasn't Pumpkin Spice Cafe, but it was Cinnamon Bun Bookstore.
Yes.
It was one of those books that has like a little playlist at the front.
Oh, yes.
And I found it on Apple Music. And my first listen through, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, because I don't listen to a lot of new music. Like I don't, or new to me music. Not even all of it was new. But it did have some comfort, like Taylor Swift and Niall Horan and Harry Styles and stuff. But then it also had some other newer stuff like Maisie Peters and Sabrina Carpenter and some other stuff that I don't listen to regularly. And I do feel like I remember that season so well.
Yes.
As being like the season of that playlist for me.
Dude, it's people say like music holds memories.
Yeah.
So I feel like music has got to be a huge thing for the novelty effect. I also think that audiobooks can be a really big thing. So maybe it's just whatever you're kind of consuming in your ears.
Yeah.
But when I like if I'm doing something, anytime I'm sweeping the office at work, I'm remembering the times that I listened to Harry Potter on my audiobook
Mhm.
or when I listen to this book called The Fury on an audiobook. And that's what I remember every single time because it just reminds me of like where I was while listening to those books.
Yeah.
So I feel like, could that be like the novelty effect?
Yeah,
Kind of?
Yeah, I think so because it was the first time that you did that. And
Yeah, it's
especially
the
in that
first time I
setting.
listened to those books on audiobook, and then it always reminds me of them. Or like anytime I mow the lawn, which I've only done like 3 times, but the first time I did it, I was listening to the Partners in Crime audiobook.
Yeah.
And I think about that every single time.
Yeah, I think it's really just incorporating things into like mowing the lawn is a monotonous thing, right? Like your brain is not going to naturally be like, I need to remember this unless you attach something to it that it's like, oh, I like this. I should remember this, you know? So with the Harry Potter audiobooks, I remember when I first read those at the beginning of working at CBC when I was still new. And I guess that was the novelty effect too, but it was kind of in a bad way because I was so stressed and I was like, I'm not good at it yet.
Oh,
and you know how like when you're learning a new skill or whatever, it's almost like you're Bambi, like sliding around on the ice trying to figure out how to do it. And then it's like eventually you figure out like how to stabilize yourself and you even get good at it. But like at first you're just like, falling all over. That's how I felt at the beginning. And so Jared he recommended, because I was listening to so many personal development audiobooks. He was like, why don't you just listen to something fun? Like Harry Potter. And
that's a great idea.
Yes. And honestly, pairing the comfort of Harry Potter, even though I hadn't listened to the audiobooks, I like knew the story, pairing the comfort of it with the scary novelty of like the new job and being a beginner was really a good pairing at the time. And I remember that season very, very clearly.
Right. And you'll probably think about that now whenever you listen to a Harry Potter book.
Yeah,
like,
that's
even
probably
if
true.
you listen to a bunch. I know Julia has said before that she listened to the Harry Potter books on her way back from Oregon during that drive, and that's what she thinks about every single time, even though she's listened to the Harry Potter books multiple times.
Yeah, it's because it's the first time. It's new.
Yeah, it's an experience paired with something new as well.
Yeah. So we talked about that for a while. But another routine that you might have is like if you take regular walks, obviously I do this, I talk about it all the time, but trying a new route, or if you're with someone, like looking up questions. Have you seen these questions on like Pinterest before? List of questions to ask your partner?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, and actually you posted a list. If you're taking a walk with a gal pal.
Yeah.
So you can go to our Instagram and get an idea of a question. But when you start the walk, instead of just like, oh, how's your day? Or, oh, that just kind of the same conversations that you have all the time, asking some different, unique kind of question. Like, what would you be if you could be anything or whatever? Or like, what's a hobby that you've always been interested in, but never really tried, or things like that. What were some of the other ones that you had on there? Do you remember?
Oh, I had like, what's one skill that you'd be really good at, but have never tried?
Yeah.
Or like, if you were going to go back to one time period, when would it be and why? Like just things like that, that can be so easy. But I also really like the idea of asking a question that can really like spark a discussion. And not like a debate necessarily, because we're not wanting to fight or anything like that, but just being like, who do you think would win in a fight? Batman or Superman? Like, and then kind of going from there and just having fun with that. I think that could be really fun. And then you kind of can remember that.
I was going to say you're more likely to remember that conversation than the one that's like, oh yeah, work was fine. We did this and that and this. And I'm way more likely to remember those kinds of conversations from our walks than just like, which the everyday ones are still important to have to appreciate the moment that your partner is having or your buddy that you're walking with is having. But it's also easy to kind of forget or to bleed into the next walk that you have.
Absolutely. And to be like, wait, did you tell me that yesterday or the day before?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. The next one that I really liked is, it's kind of silly, but it makes sense. It's making your coffee differently. If you are waking up and you're making your coffee the exact same way every day, that coffee is going to be the exact same every single day. Your ride to work is going to be the exact same. So if you're adding something else in there, that's a little bit fun. You could add some Cool Whip. You could add some peppermint. You could literally make a different type of coffee. Like, I think that's a really fun one. It's so silly, and I think that that's what makes the novelty effect good, is that there's such little things that you can add it.
No, I like that one a lot. And I like like every once, Jared's been like foaming milk, which he normally just drinks black coffee. But lately he's been adding a little milk and like frothing it beforehand and putting it in there. And I feel like he's been enjoying kind of having a new way to make coffee or whatever. And I do like changing up a little bit, like adding a little cinnamon into the grounds or things like that. Or even making it cold, and you know, I normally do hot, you know, right? But yeah, changing it up. I like that one. Yeah, me too. And I feel like it can kind of change your morning enough to make you more aware of what you're doing. Yeah, actually experiencing your life in the moment.
Completely agree.
The last one I had in kind of the incorporating novelty into your routines is starting the day with a different quote affirmation. I don't remember what I meant by this, but
probably like those affirmation cards. Every day, like you kind of say something new. Or I mean, even with quotes, you can look up different quotes every day, like have them on your mirror or something.
Yeah. I guess maybe I was just thinking, you know how I have talked before about people that I listen to that have mantras that they start their days with?
Yes.
Maybe just having a different one or something. But
instead of like today's gonna be a good day.
Like
changing it up from there. I like that one. And then you can kind of remember.
And maybe applying it specifically to that day. Like, what do I want specifically from this day? Like, do I want it to be more about being patient? Do I want it to be more about being fun? Do I want it more about, you know, those? Maybe you can kind of change the goal for the day.
Definitely.
And remember it that way.
Definitely. Yes. So those were all kind of ideas of how to change up things in your normal everyday routines. This one's kind of how to change up things when you're learning something new or trying to seek out different things. So something that you could do is take some free courses online with whatever it is that you're deciding would be a cool thing to try to learn about, whether that's learning a new language or learning how to code. I know Mason does that all the time. I don't know if any other people do that.
Yeah. Jared takes MIT, like he takes math courses because MIT does free online courses. And he takes math courses, and I'm like, you are such a nerd.
It's so cool though.
It is.
And then if you can remember it, perfect. Or you can be like, oh yeah, I remember the last time I tried to do that. I was doing this.
Nate, Julia's husband, our sister's husband, Nate, our brother-in-law.
So many titles.
I know. I just said that like in so many different ways, the same thing. But anyway, he was just saying how he's taking some courses on digital media.
Like editing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Video editing, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And when you are like kind of in a stable place with your job or whatever you're doing, like you're kind of in a content, you know, it's really easy to just like not do something like that.
Yes.
So I really like that he was just like, yeah, I'm just trying it out. And I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been doing whatever you've been doing. Not that he's old, but that like you can still incorporate new things.
Yes. I think it gets really easy when you've been in a job for a long time to just, you're doing that job every single day. I'll tell you that when I come home from work, Mason's like, oh yeah, how was work? And I'm like, what'd you do today? And I'm like, I really don't know. I'm like, I can't remember. And it's because I'm doing the same thing every single day. That I'm like, I don't know what I did today. Or I'm like, I could tell you, but it's not interesting. Like, you know what I mean? So incorporating something new is very good to do.
Yeah. Which I will say, if you are wanting to take classes, like there are free ones online, but also this could also be a potential opportunity for you to actually seek like a higher degree or something. My manager, Sierra, I've shouted her out before, but she just took advantage of Community Blood Center will do tuition reimbursement.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she just finished her bachelor's degree. She was like, I don't know, 8 credits shy or something like that.
Yeah.
And she just finished it by doing it online.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, as long as it is a degree that can be applicable to her job at Community Blood Center, they'll reimburse it. So that's also something that if you have a workplace that incentivizes you learning something new like that, then
take advantage.
Take advantage of that.
That is really, really cool. The other one that we have on there is learning a new skill.
Yeah.
So whether that's a cooking class, maybe you're doing pottery, maybe you're doing painting, archery, like whatever it is, that's a new skill.
Yeah.
We
did a glass blowing class for a day, and I will both like always remember
I love that. I actually feel like dates, and if you like specifically to our date night episode of how we were talking about doing something new and like you guys trade back and forth. I feel like since deciding that Mason and I were going to do that kind of date nights as well,
Mhm.
we're always seeking new experiences. So I feel like that could really play into that one
Yeah.
as well, with like doing something new. So we're not just sitting on the couch and watching the same TV show, or so
Yeah.
we're not just going to, like, I'll go to Texas Roadhouse every time.
I was gonna say going
So-
to the same dinner spot every
yes,
time. Yeah.
yes. And so that's been a really fun way to incorporate date nights, and we're excited about date nights again.
Yeah.
And like excited to be like, oh my gosh, remember whenever we just did that? That was really cool.
Yeah.
And things like that. I really
I
like
do
this.
think your relationship can be a place where you get very content and stable, and that's good to have stability,
Mhm.
but it also can feel mundane or monotonous, and you don't want your relationship to feel that way.
Yes.
So I do feel like adding it. Go back to that date night episode
It's a good
if you
episode.
didn't listen to it, because we gave so many ideas. But yeah, Jared and I really, really like once a month doing something. It can't just be a dinner date. And like glass blowing has been one. We did like a cookie decorating class one time.
Yeah.
We even did like make your own sushi at home. And I feel like introducing novelty into your relationship is so important, because
yes.
because I feel like people always remember when they first got together and think like,
Mhm.
gosh, I missed that.
And
And a big reason.
they remember the first dates and the first
Yes.
kisses and the first sleepovers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because you were experiencing firsts together.
Yes.
And that's exactly what the novelty effect is. And it makes you feel so rosy-eyed and like, about that
Mhm.
time. And it's like, you actually can have that time now. You just have to be a little more creative about your first.
Yeah.
You've done so many things together at this point
yes.
that it's harder to find a first.
yes.
But like doing one of these new skills, like a pottery class or something like that, that likely is going to be a first for you. So
yes, exactly. That's why I was really thinking about your date nights earlier, and was like, this is a great way to include novelty in a
Yeah.
relationship.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that's learning something new. We also had kind of like trying some new things, but small, because obviously we can't always be like, oh, we're going to go to a new class every day of the
Yeah.
week. Like today's pottery, tomorrow's glass blowing, and you run out pretty quickly.
Yes.
But there are little ways that you can do this. So Jared and I have actually started doing this, and it's been working in 2025 so far,
Mhm.
where we are doing like a new recipe each week.
Fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be big.
Mhm.
One week he just tried like a different sauce on the wings. He made his own sauce for these wings. Or one week he tried a new soup or whatever. And one recipe a week is not a lot. Like
Right.
it's really not that hard. And we just kind of build it into our menu.
Yeah.
But I do feel like trying a new recipe is a really great way. And if you do, it doesn't have to be one per week or one per day or whatever.
Mhm.
But it can help you kind of remember.
No, that's a great idea, because dinner menus
Mm-hmm.
can get you're eating the same things every week and you're so bored and you're so like, I
Yeah.
don't know what else to put on here. So I really like that idea. How do you guys find your new recipes? Are you just thinking of them, or are you Googling them, or what?
Yeah, so when Jared started, he was really craving butter chicken,
Ah,
like Indian like curry.
Yes.
And so he made that, and that was really good. And then
So you're just going on vibes.
yeah, so we've just kind of been like whatever sounds good, but when we make the dinner plan for the week,
Mhm.
we pick the recipe then.
I love that. I've always had this idea. I don't think it would work great for me because I'm a little bit picky, so I would have to figure this out. But I've always liked the idea of, we have several different cookbooks, and
Yeah.
I liked the idea of just like flipping to a random page and be like, this is what we're having this week.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that would be fun. Or like going through a cookbook and bookmarking several different pages.
Mhm.
And then whenever you're ready for a new recipe, being like, hey, I think we should try this one. I've always thought that sounds super fun.
Yeah, I like that. And the thing about this is keep it small. Like novelty can be exhausting. You know,
Yes.
there's a reason that we eat the same things every week, and it's because it's mindless and it's easy. And after work, we don't want to make a whole brand new thing. That's why normally we do our new recipe on like a Saturday or a Sunday.
Right.
And because we have a little bit less mental fatigue on those days. And so, and I'm not even gonna lie, Jared makes most of them. But there's a little bit more brain power there.
Mhm.
So it's okay if you just do like a small, you don't have to, when you're making the menu for the week, open the cookbook and pick 7 different new recipes. Like, that's gonna be exhausting.
Or if it's like a roasted Thanksgiving turkey, you can be like, oh, why not?
Yeah,
Let me choose a new one.
Or save that for a day when I have a little more time.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, so that's just a small thing.
Definitely. Another thing you can do, also related to food, is just trying a new menu item at a restaurant.
Yeah.
So especially a restaurant that you go to all the time and you have the
Mhm.
usual, you know exactly what you want, trying something new. Maybe even trying a new drink
Mhm.
at these restaurants or at these fast food places. I know I am a creature of habit and
Mhm.
I like what I like.
Mhm.
And so I never get new things at restaurants or anything
Yeah.
like that. But then I think the other day at Taco Bell, Mason was like, no, you should get the, what's it? Ocean water? No, that's
Oh.
no, Baja Blast.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never get Baja Blast. He's like, you should get it. And I liked it. And I remember getting it in the
Yeah.
drive-thru being like, oh, this is a good Baja Blast.
Yeah. That's funny because the next one was trying a different coffee order, which is
Oh,
like a
yeah.
different drink order or whatever. Yeah. I feel like just ordering something a little bit different. It doesn't even have to be huge. You could literally just get like a different side, or you could get with your coffee or something, you could get just a different pump of syrup or something like that. I do feel like it sticks out in my brain though whenever I do that, whenever I kind of change up my regular.
Yeah. It's kind of just the trying something new.
Yeah. This was one that the article recommended that I thought was funny because some people would hate it, but it said talking to new people in public. When you're at the grocery store, actually having a conversation with the lady that's looking at lemons the same time as you or something.
Yeah.
Because more than likely you don't do that very regularly, and that person's completely foreign to you.
Right.
So whenever you talk to them, you might go home and be like, yeah, I had this conversation with this lady at the store. And you probably will be more likely to remember that than than the same store trip that you always do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I do think people will hate that one. So you don't have to do that one if you're not
I love
a talker. I was going to say that's perfect for you.
I already sometimes do that. But not if Jared's with me, then I'm like, I'll spare him.
That's nice. That's nice to do. Another one you can do is watching a new movie or a new show. I am a huge, I don't know what the word is.
Rewatcher?
But, oh yeah, huge rewatcher. I just rewatch the same thing. But every once in a while, I'll pick up a new show and I'll love it.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, watching a new show or a new movie can be a good way to add some novel back into your life or novelty back into your life. And you're not watching the same thing after work every single time.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We're doing my 2025 TV watch parties.
Yes.
With Severance and Silo, and there's this one now, Prime Suspect. And I definitely am remembering it feels like the weeks are not passing by as quickly as we're leading up to those shows, you know, and kind of making, I don't know, every episode is like, oh my gosh, because it's new. You know? So it's been really fun.
That is really fun. I like it.
So those are all little small ways that you can do something new. And then our last category is kind of changing your environment.
Mhm.
So one that we really love is working from a different place. So if you have the ability to work from home or work from somewhere else, or even, for instance, I don't know if you edit the podcast exactly the same way, same place every time you do it, but I often do. And so even if it's something like that is maybe not your job, but you
like a task.
Yeah. Changing up where you do that. And we love to work from a coffee shop on a Friday or something like that. And even in the house, like I work in my office regularly, but a lot of the time I do like to, get out of the house, change up where I am and that sort of thing. So if you have the ability, that's a great way to change up your environment.
Mm-hmm. I also think if you don't have that ability, like if you work in office, you can rearrange. I do that all the time where I change up where my computer is, or I change up where the printer is, or where my plant is. I'll just change something up. And then for a while it feels brand new. And we all know I do that with my home too. I'm always rearranging in my home. I'm always changing the comforters or changing up the pillowcases, whatever it is. I think that that's a really easy way to add something new and make it feel fresh again.
Yeah, you're really good at that. And I feel like a lot of the time I do experience you to be like, oh, I got this new candle or I got this new thing or whatever. And it really is impacting your life, like in that moment that you're experiencing it.
It is. Candles are a big thing, like changing up the scents. Yeah. And my bath time candle, it's never the same. Yeah. I'm always changing it up. And whatever the vibes are, I smell it. I'm like, yep, that's a good bath time one.
I feel like you could probably incorporate the five senses a lot into the novelty effect. Like,
absolutely.
We were talking about hearing and how music and the Harry Potter audiobooks and stuff like that. Like that can be such a memory sensor or whatever, or trigger. And so can smell. For sure. Like you smell something and it brings you to a certain time or whatever. And then
taste
Taste will
trying
be the
new
same.
recipes,
Yeah,
trying new drinks.
totally. Yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
that. Yeah, whenever you aren't sure, you can maybe just start with one of the senses and go from there.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a good way to make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like that one.
And then let's see, the last one we kind of already talked about, but when you're changing your environment, what if it's not work or home or whatever, if it's specifically you want to change your environment in your relationship, then changing up your date spots or even I know that you and Mason do your check-in meetings. And do you do those weekly or
Yes, but we have our big meetings monthly.
monthly? Okay. Yeah. So if you have something like that, you could change up by going to a different place or whatever to discuss that sort of thing.
I even think if you're a parent and you take your kid to the same park every time, you can take them to a different park.
Yeah.
Or if you go to a same lunch spot with your friend every time, go to a different spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely changing up environment is important.
I love to try new spots, and I do feel like you remember.
You definitely do.
Well, whenever you change it up.
Definitely. Well, I really liked all those ideas. I'm going to be honest, at the beginning of this, not this episode, because by the episode I understood it, but at the beginning of the idea, I was kind of like, I don't know if I totally understand it. Are we just trying to find ways to slow down life? Are we trying to find ways to make it exciting? And you're like, no, it's kind of just ways to continue experiencing firsts.
Yeah.
And without it having to be these big deals. So I feel like hopefully if you were listening and you maybe were kind of confused at the beginning or had never heard of the novelty effect like me, hopefully this kind of cleared things up and it helps incorporate new ideas.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try to find that Facebook reel that inspired it and send it or share it somewhere.
Yeah, repost it on the story.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, because I just liked the concept, and I like anything that also has the brain science behind it, like the chemistry of, the less that you are encoding new things, the less you are likely to remember things, and the more likely you are to think of everything kind of in a blur. It makes total sense to me. And so here's how you can combat that. I like that a lot.
Right. Me too. Well, thank you guys for listening. Make sure that you do send this episode to a friend. It could be a great way for them to start out a new novelty effect in their own life.
Yeah.
They can remember the first time they listened to the Fill Your Cups podcast.
Oh!
So, look at that. So, yes, make sure you share it with a friend. Make sure you let us know whenever you are incorporating things from our podcast, whenever you are reaching out to loved ones afterwards, like Brittany did.
Yeah.
So, definitely just keep us in the loop. Let us know.
Yeah, we love you guys. And
we'll see you next week. Cheers.